longer because I'm going to go over my best cues for teaching athletes how to squat properly. A lot of people use the barbell back squat exercise to increase their athleticism, increase power and strength in the lower body and the full body actually, but they're just all screwed up. The exercise is just demolished because the form is off, and the frustration that a lot of coaches go through is trying to teach these weaker athletes how to perform the exercise properly. And over the course of years, I've developed a series of cues that help you teach the athlete to squat properly, and I'm going to share them with you today. Now, we're going to start from the bottom up. Obviously, you can't see my feet, so I'm going to talk to you about how to correct the stance. Whatever's like width or you decide to teach your athlete to use, like if it's a narrow stance or it's a wide stance, I'm not that concerned with. Typically, I tell my athletes to just squat down like you're going to take a dump in the woods, and wherever his feet stand, I believe that that's his natural stance. So that's the one that I choose. Some coaches think there's a narrow one is better, a wider one. That's up to you. I just let him take his natural stance. Just tell him squat down like he's going to go use the bathroom, and wherever his feet are, that's his natural stance. Now, some of the problems with the footing for the athlete is you'll have kids that come up on their toes. You'll have athletes that it looks like their feet are rounding out or picking up in the middle. More often than that, you'll have athletes that it looks like their feet are collapsing in. The arch of their feet look like they're just buckling in, and the outsides of the feet are coming up. That's all messed up mechanics. You can't let your athlete squat that way. So a few of the cues that I use to get them thinking about having flat, solid feet on the ground while doing their squat are the following. First of all, before I even get into that, their shoes have to be flat-soled, like thick rubber shoes. They can't wear these like the spongy shoes with like the springs in the back that look really cool. They suck. They throw off the mechanics, the ground reaction force, way off. I'd rather have them squat barefoot than wear those ridiculous shoes. So if one of your athletes show up at your gym wearing those, I don't know what they call them, but Nike makes them with the shocks, I believe. Get them out of there, tell them to take off the shoes and wear something else next time. Because otherwise, everything I'm telling you right now is not going to work. So with regard to the feet, teach them to spread their feet and get all four corners of their foot glued to the ground. So when you say that, you say four corners, they start thinking about all parts of their foot. And that's exactly what you want them to do. You don't want to just tell them, keep it flat feet. It doesn't make sense. But or at least, the cue doesn't work. But the cue that I've found that really works in getting them to keep their feet flat is to say all four corners of your foot. Get all four corners of your foot glued to the ground. I say glued, or what works even better sometimes is pretend your feet are in cinder blocks. These are all psychological cues. I don't know why they work, but they work. So if I tell them, keep your feet in cinder blocks, imagine that they're cemented, like you've got cement blocks under from your ankle down. All of a sudden their feet will stay a lot flatter. So that's an incredible cue. Flat feet, or four corners of your feet glued to the ground, or feet in cement. Once they find their footing, that's it. A lot of kids, they'll put a lot of weight on their back, they'll find their footing, they'll do a squat, then they'll march around trying to find that. The reason why they're doing that is because they have weak feet and they just don't feel comfortable standing. It's crazy. I mean, we spend most of our life sitting and doing a lot of other bullshit, but standing on your feet is a physical activity that a lot of kids, a lot of athletes, a lot of adults have difficulty doing. They just don't know how to stand still. They're constantly moving around, and the ADD behavior just takes off. Get them to focus. Say, just stand, find your footing. Where is it? Are your foot set? Good. Keep them there. Glue them to the ground, all four corners. Now they can perform the squat. So let's move up from the feet to the knees. The knees are one of the areas that you're going to notice that many athletes that have really weak glutes, their knees are going to buckle in. It's the weirdest thing, but you'll see their knees like do a wobble, or they'll kind of like every time they squat, their knees buckle in. typically on the way up, the knees will buckle in. That's a sign that your athlete has weak, the adductors of the femur are weak. And basically I'm saying their glutes are weak. So there are a number of things, there are cues that might work, but I'm going to tell you an exercise that you can do in order to strengthen the glutes so that that screw up doesn't happen. What you got to do is while they're squatting, tell them to spread their knees or show their crotch. When you say show your crotch, as weird as that sounds, it for some reason it's a psychological cue that makes them open up their knees, open up their legs. If you say spread your knees, I think the tendency is to kind of like just push their knees out at the knees. But when you say spread your crotch, they do it from the groin. They open up a lot more. So as they're performing the squat, just continue to remind them, show your crotch, and they'll know what you're talking about. So you've got flat feet now, and they're showing their crotch. Now you're going to have some athletes that bow the other way, like their knees will go out. It's a lot less common. You're not going to see too much of that. But with the athletes that the knees do buckle in, as you're teaching them with the cues to keep their knees out by showing their crotch, you can also add this exercise to their repertoire. Get a belt. I'm looking around for one of my belts, but get a weight belt. Wrap it around their thighs, right above their knees, so their legs will be like wrapped up by the belt. And have them perform squats. They're gonna hate this. Have them perform squats while pushing out on the belt the whole time. Now, I'm not saying barbell squats. I typically will have them do body weight squats or with a sandbag, but have them push out like they want to break the belt. That's the cue that I use when they're doing belt squats. I say push out on the belt like you're breaking the belt. And it will really force their knees out. Their butt's going to be really, really sore the next week. And you want to throw that in every day after they've squatted, or a few times a week after their workouts. It really doesn't matter how you use it, but get it into their program, and you'll notice that the external rotation is going to happen more naturally when they're squatting, and then you've basically corrected that imbalance that could lead to injuries and obviously lead to a weaker, less powerful athlete on the field. So that's taking it one step up. Now let's move into the hips. One of the things you're going to notice in some athletes is that they're going to like tip their hips side to side. You'll see like a sway to one side when they're squatting. What that means is that they've got a tight hip flexor on the opposite side of the sway. So I know you've seen this before if you've coached athletes. They're doing their squat and like their hip shifts one way and comes back to the middle. And you're like, what the hell's going on here? Why can't this kid keep his hips straight? Well, it's because he's shifting towards the weakness, or he's shifting into the tightness. So if he's shifting his hips that way, that means this hip flexor is really tight. You have to get him to stretch the hip flexor. I'm not going to go into how to do that now, but that's a muscle that needs to be stretched out just on that side. Another thing that you're going to recognize that some athletes have a tendency to not want to stick their butts out during their squat. They're so hyperextended that they want to push this way with the squat. It's weird. What you can simply do with an athlete like that is give him a box to sit on, and it'll start teaching him how to sit his butt back. It's a difficult thing for a lot of athletes to do, but that's the way you're going to want to cue. Just have them sit back onto a box. You can use box squats forever, but if you want to get rid of the box after a while, just continue to use the cue, sit on the box, sit on the box, sit on the box. Now, let me get rid of this. Now that we're moving up, I want to talk about the shoulders. You'd be surprised at how much the shoulders affect your athlete's ability to squat. I've done this in a previous video, but I'm going to show it to you now. You're going to get a lot of athletes who, you tell them to hold the bar, and then this happens. The elbows point back, and they start jamming the bar into their neck. And this is what they do. And you can't, everything that you taught up until that point is just going to be all screwed up because their mechanics are off. The bar is not set properly on their spine. They're not getting axial loading. They're jamming the bar into their neck. So what you're going to have to do is an athlete who has this problem is going to have really tight pec minor. You're going to have to teach them to stretch their pecs against the corner of a wall. You're going to have to teach them they've also probably got really tight sternocleidomastoids and like cervical extensors. You're gonna have to teach them how to stretch the neck. They need to stretch the neck this way and this way. And the cue that you're gonna wanna use when they're jamming the bar into their neck is, there are two cues. There's show your boobs off. This might sound ridiculous, but one of the best ways to get your athletes to pick their chest up during the squat is not to say pick your chest up. I've used spread your chest, that works. But then sometimes I've tried this one and it works wonders, I think because of the psychological, it's funny, so there's like a psychological, like it ingrains into their psyche because it's so funny. I tell them, imagine you're a chick and you just got a boob job, right? And you want to show it off. So what do? They start doing this, like they start showing off their big boobs. So for some reason, this consistently works with me and my athletes. So I'll say, show your boobs off, show your boobs off. At first they giggle and it's like it's all funny, but after a while they realize, I gotta show my boobs off. I show my boobs off, and the neurological connection there is instant. So show your boobs off and point your elbows at the ground. Point the elbows down. Elbows need to be pointed down. And you know, some people may argue with me with regard to how to hold the bar, but I like them to hold a little bit tighter. I don't like them to be way out here, and definitely not over the bar like this. You see some kids doing this, that's ridiculous, doesn't make sense, don't do it. Hands on the bar. And the reason why I like to have them come a little bit closer is because not only are they going, I don't see the squat as just a leg exercise. If I can force them to bring their hands in, I'm also strengthening their scapula adductors, the muscles that help extend the mid-back, and promote that flexibility in the shoulder, which is going to translate over to better performance in other exercises as well as their sport. So that's it. We worked our way from the feet up to the neck. These are critical cues for executing a proper squat. Hopefully, perhaps I'll make another video if you guys request it, actually showing myself doing these with some of the athletes. Just haven't made something like that. Anyway, questions, concerns, let me know. I hope that was helpful for you.